Hey everybody, I'm Wes Brownlee.
And I'm Sean Moscow, and the candy shop.
Is now open. All right, everybody, you guys might notice that we have a new guest on here with us today. He's not a guest; he's actually a new permanent star. This is Tyler. He will
Woo!
be on the show with us now. From now on, I think he's going to bring a lot of fun energy. Would love to let him introduce himself to you guys as a part of the Candy Shop team.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, my name is Tyler. I'm actually Wes's little brother, although I'm not sure that you'd say little given that I'm a couple inches taller. But that's a story for a different day. Happy to be here. Happy to add a little bit of spunk. Yeah, I like that word. I like that word. Um, Happy to be here, especially on a day where we're celebrating a man such as my brother Pendleton. Not blood brother, not even frat brother, just a wonderful guy that I love with all my heart.
Yeah, Pendleton was my roommate, random roommate in college, and at first we didn't gel that well because he thought I was a beekeeper. Because of my
Beekeeper.
instinct. Yeah.
Is that why your name
Pendleton,
is Beekeeper?
yeah, no,
WRB
well, no,
keeper.
my WRB keeper goes my initials, and I was a goalkeeper, right? It's just like a high school ass like Instagram handle. But Pendleton was like, dude, no, I thought you were a beekeeper. But yeah, this episode is coming out on Pendleton's birthday, so
Happy
to
birthday,
honor him,
Pendleton.
would love to just start out with a couple of stories that we each have of Pendleton, and to start with my own. I think one of the funniest things that's ever happened between Pendleton and I is when we went skiing. I don't know. I want to say this was probably like 2022 in the, obviously in the winter. We were up at Wintergreen. We had rented a cabin between me, Pendleton, Tyler, and one of
This
Tyler's
is Snowshoe,
friends.
not Wintergreen, pal.
Snowshoe, you're right. My bad. It's
Love
Snowshoe. Fuck
Snowshoe.
Wintergreen. Snowshoe's way better.
Snowshoe is
We
way
were up at
better.
Snowshoe in West Virginia, and we're doing like the normal ski thing. We're playing some. I think we had like the Switch or the Wii or something with us. We were playing some games. Pendleton brought a bottle of Hennessy, and we were drinking some Hennessy. And
Yucky,
like,
yucky,
yeah,
yucky.
I don't understand the
Don't
hype behind
understand
the
the hype. That
Hennessy.
shit was
Don't understand the hype,
disgusting.
but it did lead to a fun time. We had a great time. We were drinking the Hennessy. We were playing games. It was a great night. We go to bed, and then probably like, I don't know, 3 a.m. I wake up with the worst stomach acid I had ever had. I'm talking like there's a
And
volcano.
the Jim Beam apple.
Yeah, just bad combination. We also had like peach. There was like peach schnapps too. Like
It was it, it was bad
it
combination of
was the
liquor.
worst combination of liquors imaginable. But I wake up with just the worst fireball volcano feeling in my stomach. And like I didn't even feel like I was gonna be sick. Like I wasn't like, man, this is like the worst decision I ever made. I drank way too much. I just felt like the demons in me needed to be released. And so I go to the bathroom. At the exact same time that I woke up, so did Pendleton. And he was describing feeling the exact same way. And I was like, sorry, buddy, I got here first. We're going to have to like figure something out. So, I do my thing. I come out of the bathroom, like, all right, Pendleton, all you. Um, and this guy is out on the back porch, just going over the edge, throwing up. And I was like, damn, buddy, like, is it really that bad? And he's like halfway crying. He's like, yeah, bro, it's that bad. And I was like, yeah, like I knew it was that bad. I just experienced the same thing. So like obviously it was gonna be that bad.
Well, while I wake up and I am greeted with a yakking sound from the bathroom, as well as a yakking sound from outside. And I am not in the same boat as these gentlemen. These gentlemen, way too much Henny. I was not a fan of the Henny. I maybe had two strokes of the bottle. You know what I'm saying? Um, and they both kind of look at me like, so fucking funny. Oh my God.
Yeah, it was about the worst thing I think I'd ever experienced. So I haven't had a Hennessy since.
Yeah, so Pendleton, now this is a dude I've only met twice, but if he's taught me anything, it's to make an impact. Because I have two stories about Pendleton, but I'm only going to share one. The second one will be for a later time. But first time I met Pendleton was up in Snowshoe. But then we actually reconnected when I flew down to New Orleans for Mardi Gras to visit actually West. West was down there visiting, I think it was Tulane, and Pendleton decided to come up and hang out with him, and so I was like, yeah, the dude's a legend. Like I was like, why not me? We did only holy things while we were down there in New Orleans during Mardi Gras, guaranteed. One of those holy things was drink. You know, Jesus drank, we drank. And we were actually, partying down Bourbon at like noon, maybe like noon 30. But we were respectful enough to wait until after the morning had ended. And we all we did was just bar hop. It was just a guys' night. The girls that we were with were out, having their own fun. We decided just to have a guys' night. It was me, Wes Pendleton, and a couple of my friends, a couple of my bros that were ended up down there in New Orleans, just having a grand old time. And so we actually visited the oldest bar in New Orleans, which was pretty cool. Had some fun stories there. One of the bartenders was like, "Hey, you should go talk to those girls outside," and we were like, "No, we're not gonna." And he goes, "Why?" And we're like, "Cause we're pussies. That's why." But then
Yeah.
it was a fun time. But the thing is, we kept drinking. Like, we did not stop. I think we had maybe like two or three hurricanes before we met up with the girls at like 5 p.m. And the thing about New Orleans is like they love to give you shit. It doesn't really matter if it's a shot or if it's a t-shirt or if it's underwear or if it's a cake or if it's a stress ball boob. Uh, and now this stress ball boob, when you get that to five really drunk men, we're gonna have some fun with it. And I just remember at this point, I'm kind of blacked out. At this point, I just remember though, Pendleton is holding this boob, this stress ball boob, above the crowd and telling everybody to just fucking like almost worship him. He's squeezing it. He's having the time of his life with this boob. And there is actually a photo where he was like, all right, guys, put your hands on this boob. And so we're all like pressing our hands against this boob. Like it is the most important thing in this entire world. And like that's what I do. I fucking love Pendleton. Like this dude is just such a G. He is just such a G. And like, happy birthday, bro.
There was one time this man, I went and visited Virginia Beach to see Cameron, it's where she lives. And Penny's like 30 minutes away. So we're like, oh, let's link up. And we link up. It's probably like 9 p.m. at night. And we're like, oh, well, what should we do? We had just went out to a bar, had a couple drinks, and then we were headed back to his place. And he's like, oh, well, there's a forest over there. We can just go like look around.
That's it. They just wanted to look
Just go
around.
look
I
around.
said, what? We want to just
Listen,
go and nine. It's pitch black out. You want to just go walk around the forest? He's like, yeah, why not? I said, dog. No.
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 Pendleton, we love you. This episode's for you.
happy birthday, big dog.
Happy birthday. Much love. Much love.
Mhm.
I know one thing, and it's the national parks.
I love national parks.
Speaking
That's a
of,
great segue, Wes.
Yeah.
You're
hey,
a pro
look,
podcaster.
somebody's got to keep us on pace, right?
Yeah, it's the producer. What?
It's the
What's that?
producer.
Yeah, yeah, we're talking about it right now. All right, cool. The producer just asked me out on a date.
All right. Well, as far as national parks goes, I think I've been to about 16 of them. So I've been to a quarter of them. It's my bucket list. I am to get to all of them. I'm about a quarter way through life, and now I've got a quarter way through the parks. So I'll have a bunch to be able to share on. I know these guys have also been to a fair few themselves. I think Tyler's been to every park I've been to, or Tyler, all the parks I've
yeah.
been to are ones Tyler's been to.
Mm-hmm. I've been to a lot, been out west, and then a few out east as well. So I'm excited to share, excited to talk about the beauty that is our national parks. Hopefully, they'll
Yeah.
still be around for our kids.
What do we want to do? Do we want to do like our top three? How are we planning this?
I'd be
I
down to do top three and bottom three.
Yeah, I think it's I think they're all worth chatting about a little bit. We can definitely give the attention to our top three.
Mhm.
Tyler, given that you've only been to 5, I would love to hear your perspective on what you think was the best one that you've been to.
No, and I think given that I only have been to five, it's pretty easy to single out, my absolute favorite. And I think in terms of my absolute favorite, it's going to go to Acadia National Park. But I think in complete and utter contrast, my other absolute favorite that I kind of had to, ponder upon if it's better than what I've seen in Acadia, it would be the Great Sand Dunes. Um, Given just I think it boils down to our experience there. The Great Sand is they're just a like genuinely I can't explain it better. It's just a vast sand dune with mountains completely surrounding the entirety of it.
It is
Um
super cool.
and me and Wes ended up hiking. How far up was it? Was it
They
four
called it
miles
they
straight
called
up?
it the Big Dune. It was
Big Dune.
Big
it was an
Dune.
800-foot climb, but it felt like it took us like four
Because it's sand.
miles.
I don't know how many.
Yeah, it's a big ass pile of sand.
It is, dude, I'm telling you, doing that with a backpack on, it is tolling on the legs. But the view that we got when we reached the top, honestly, better than anything I've seen at Acadia. But I think due to my love for Maine, Maine's a spot that me and Wes go to almost every single summer. Acadia takes the cake just given the sheer beauty, and it has everything. The sand dunes are something where you go and they have a massive mountain of sand dunes, and they say, "Oh, here's a sand dune.
Here's sand.
That's what they got. They got a lot of sand. You got a lot of sand." Whereas Acadia, you drive in tons of food trucks. You can experience the water. You can experience mountains. The air in Maine is like how I imagine a whippet to be. I've never personally had a whippet, but like
I think that's
apparently
so...
they're amazing. And apparently they're sick. And
No,
dude,
hey,
it is.
we do not endorse doing whippets.
We do not
I think
endorse
we
whippets by
need
no
to-
means.
Mm-mm.
I do endorse the air in Maine. It is it hits a part of your lungs that just I've never experienced before.
The air in Maine
Um,
is like biting into the first Pringle in a can of Pringles.
It's that O'Hare
what
air.
what an analogy! Oh my god,
Better
it's
than that.
phenomenal. It's phenomenal. It's a beer after a long day of work. Like it is so I can't explain it. There's no words that can explain it. And I think
You could
the
say it was breathtaking. Oh, oh,
This fucking
oh.
guy.
um, but like the colors, I think the time in which we had gone was early June, so it was right when like you do see a lot of these trees growing leaves, a little after spring. Um, Absolutely gorgeous. You feel the breeze from the ocean coming in. I think we did a trail. I think we ended up climbing about 1,300 feet. Um, and it was a phenomenal experience. It was kind of one of those things where as you walk along the trail, it's not necessarily the sights you're seeing, but what you're walking through feels like you're walking through a fictional movie. I could have sworn I was Alice in Wonderland walking through that. It was unbeknownst to me. Oh my God, it was beautiful. I recommend to anybody who wants to just go on a nice hike. In the case that you're in Maine, which not many folk are, but
And I
my
can
lord,
attest
was
and
it
I can
amazing.
attest to that feeling of it being a wonderland, right? Because when I was in Acadia, this is another one of the parks that I've been to. Me and my buddy went on a hike, and about halfway through the hike, we'd made it to this crossroads. We were supposed to go right. We went straight, but it ended up being incredible because about 2 minutes after we'd gone straight, almost out of nowhere, a bunch of like white seeds started to fall. And this is also like middle of the summer, like late May, maybe.
Christmas in July type vibes.
Dude, yeah, it felt like it was snowing. And like, I've never experienced another moment where I've been like, I don't know what's happening, but I am so glad that it is.
Yeah, that's fascinating. But I've been to three East Coast parks. Those are the Everglades, Great Smoky Mountains, and then New River Gorge. Of those three, New River Gorge is probably my least favorite. It was pretty, but it's also our newest national park, so it was just kind of like maybe in like 60 some odd years, it'll be even better. But it just kind of was like, nothing too crazy. I've seen some prettier hikes like down in Arkansas, and in Tennessee. But Everglades was really sick just because it's just all swampland. There's literally wildlife and alligators everywhere. You're on a boat that's floating like on like the water, which I guess all boats do, but like you just have a big ass
Hey,
fan around it. Yeah.
we're
Like
floating
or
on the
floating
water.
on the water,
We're
on like
Sean
two
just
inches
floating
of
invented
on the
boating.
water.
water.
I just discovered boating, guys. It's no big deal. But it was just really the amount of wildlife and the amount of, you know, care that the park rangers took, in terms of like picking up trash and like, cause it does have like some flow from other estuaries and rivers that flow into the Everglades, and there is trash in there. And like we would turn around and go off the beaten path to pick up a piece of trash that they see. Because like when you go out on the Everglades, it is literally just it almost looks like a rice field, like a just massive rice field with you know 6 inches of water, trees
Mm.
coming out of it, moss everywhere. You could see for miles, and like you can see when something's sticking up out of the water, and your park ranger will just drive the boat and be like, "Yeah, let's go check that out, see what it is," and you're just cruising the Everglades, which is a really really cool
Dude,
experience.
that's awesome. Shout out park rangers.
Shout out park rangers.
Would you say it is equivalent to like y'all know that scene from The Princess and the Frog when they're dancing, the alligators dancing in the
Going down the
bayou?
bayou.
Does it feel
Yeah,
like that?
it
That
does
is
feel like that. Like
so
you're just
sick.
going down the bayou. Like you're literally just cruising. And it was so sick and so just like surreal. You're just kind of like this exists. Like this is everywhere. And I mean, I can't recommend. I think it's one of the sleeper parks. I know it's probably like the more famous ones, but nobody's like, I'm gonna go to the Everglades. Just kind of, I feel
Mm-hmm.
like you end up winding up there. But honestly, like go to Miami and then go down to the Everglades. You can make a fun week out of it, and it's gonna be hot regardless where you're going. We went, I believe, in March, and the weather it was cold. I will say this on the airboat because like it's whipping by you. So like we wore our like rain jacket like a windbreaker, and we were still a little bit chilly.
Mm.
Um, I would not go in like June, July though, because I feel like that's just a death sentence.
Can't do it.
But maybe go in like April. I feel like that would be probably the best time to go. It wouldn't be too cold, nor too hot, or also maybe like a November vibes too. Um, but yeah, the third East Coast park was my favorite of the East Coasters, and it is Great Smoky Mountains. It's my home park. It is, in Tennessee and North Carolina. I think it's like 6,000 elevation at some points at kind of the main points. But you can literally there's this one hike. It's literally straight up, and you can see the Tennessee border and the North Carolina border. When you get to the top, you can see where North Carolina starts, which is really, really cool. And the mountains literally are aptly named because there's so much fog and there's so much mist. It can be a downer though because when you hike to the top, like it'll just be covered in mist and you don't get a view. So you kind of have to sit up there and wait for a view to kind of form, which I think not a lot of people think about. I wouldn't recommend kind of doing like a quick 2 minute hike and then trying to go and like leave really fast. Like you do kind of have to spend some time there if you want to see some of those really, really pretty views.
I feel like fog is so fantastical, though.
Oh,
Like,
it's
you know what
it's
I mean? Like when
magical.
you're climbing up the mountain, like
Hmm.
you feel like there's a dragon atop the
Yeah,
mountain, and he's just emitting fog. That's
emitting
so
smoke.
sick, dude.
Yeah, it was really, really cool. And Meg and I were fortunate enough to see kind of those mountains peeking through the fog like that. It was really, really cool. And then driving down is honestly even cooler because you get to drive through the fog and get to drive like see the mountain right next to you. It is definitely terrifying, but it is wicked cool. It is really, really cool. I loved it. I really had a good time when I was there.
Now, I had a real quick follow up before I know I'm gonna let you talk, Wes. Don't worry. Um, Back to the Everglades. What was the bug situation like? Like that's one of the best things
Great
about the
question.
sand dunes.
Hmm.
It's like there's like you don't see why would
No
a bug be
bugs.
near the sand dunes? And I
No
think that's one of the
Right.
bugs.
reasons why I loved it was like I had no
Hmm.
worries. Everglades, I can only imagine every second. I'm
Bugs.
like, get the, get
They,
the,
yeah, they,
get the, get the.
yeah. we were very glad that the airboats moved as fast as they did because like when you stop, it's like the mosquitoes just descend on you and they're like, oh, here we go, like it's feeding time, boys. But then as soon as that
Load
airboat
that for a
turns
sweet.
on, they just go and just fly right by you. Like the airboats really do wonders in terms of bug spray. That is the thing is like don't bring bug spray, you won't really need it. Just because the airboats will move so often, like you're gonna keep moving, so like just stay moving, even when you're stopping and looking and stuff. And that was the other thing is like when the fan was off, when they turned the boat off, like it was just dead silent, and you could just hear nature, like the birds calling, the crickets churning, the frogs croaking, like it was just so cool and just pristine. Like you were out in nature, you're out in the middle of nowhere, and you are experiencing nature, and it apparently I do know that they tried like Florida tried to like take ownership and build on the Everglades. And there was like a huge fight between I believe the national parks and the state of Florida to preserve the Everglades because they really wanted to
There's been a
Leave
lot that
it.
land on
Florida's
them.
tried to do like that. Florida also
Yeah.
tried to buy up all the state parks and put golf courses and pickleball courses on them.
Hmm.
I'm a fan of golf courses, but don't be taking away the state parks, man.
Yeah,
Dude,
can't
Y'all
be
got
can't be
plenty
taken
of
away
golf
that.
courses down there. So
Yeah,
say,
you
you
don't
got
need any more golf
you got so
courses.
much room. And on that note, I think the only other park in the East Coast that's on our lists is Shenandoah National Park. And given that that's one that I would put in my top three, which is crazy to some people because I
Really.
don't think a lot of people highly rate it. But being from
so
Virginia,
amazing.
I can really appreciate the beauty that Shenandoah National Park has because
Beautiful.
it's different than most places where you start at the bottom and you hike to the top. Shenandoah National Park's main attraction is the Skyline Drive, where you are driving across the crest of all of these mountains. And the drive is just gorgeous. You can look out across valleys on both sides. It's not as like breathtaking high rocky peaks like there is in the west, but everywhere around you're going to see really pretty green mountains. And this is right in the middle of the Blue Ridge too, where like the mountains have a
Yeah.
blue hue to them. So they're incredibly beautiful. Both the hikes, or I've done 3 or 4 hikes there. I've been to Shenandoah many times. It was in my backyard, pretty much. But there was one hike that I want to highlight called Old Rag. I did this hike
Old rat.
with Pendleton, which is why I'm telling the story. It's the Pendleton episode.
Penny.
Pendleton and I, he was like, yeah, we'll hang out before, we'll go do it, whatever, we'll be good. We get going. We probably start like 11 o'clock, normal time to start a hike. It was cold, wintry. We were like, we got a little warm up some. We get going. Old Rags, it's a difficult hike, right? It's not like I'm trying to advertise it's an easy hike, but it's so pretty. You start going up, you're probably walking on inclines for about 2 hours. And then you get to the rock scramble. And the first thing you do, like it kind of comes up out of nowhere where you just you're walking on the path and you take a left. And then there's just an arrow on like this rock pointing down. And it's like a 10-foot drop that you have to lower yourself into, right? And at this
That's
point, like I was
terrifying.
I was in some of the worst shape of my life, right? Like I am I am
I'm
probably
starving, man.
I'm probably a good 260 pounds at this point. And I am like, holy shit. I can't even do a dip, and I have to lower myself into a crack as wide as myself without dying.
Yeah.
Ended up being
Well,
fine.
it
The rest,
worked. I mean,
there were a couple other spots on that too, where like you had to climb through rocks that were like this wide. Like put your hand up, get your leg up over it, and push. Like
Dang. You're literally
it,
bouldering.
no, it was intense. It was intense. Like to anybody that knows parks and hiking, Mount Katahdin is the only thing I think compares to it. Mount Katahdin's a lot easier, the scramble, I guess, because the scramble on Katahdin is just, it's straight up and it's technical, but there's not anything that you have to like climb through too much, right?
Grace Katahdin.
Katahdin is the highest point in Maine, Baxter
Was
State
that in
Park.
Acadia as well, or is that in
No, it's
the
Baxter
other
State
national
Park.
park?
That's where Kevin and I climbed
Um,
over the summer.
Okay,
That's
okay.
cool.
It is incredible. Definitely recommend Katahdin, but Yeah, but no, you get to the top of this park in Old Rag. You get to the top of Old Rag, and Pendleton was a park ranger at the time, so he knew like the secret spots to go into. He put us in one spot, and I just remember sitting there watching two ravens, like a mating ritual. We could hear their wings flapping, so there's nobody else
Oh,
around. Like you could hear both of them the whole time. Like we were like, "Wow, this is incredible."
Did
You
y'all
know,
kiss?
Mm. They
no,
made
no, no.
passionate, sweet, sweet love.
The ra-
Damn.
maybe the ravens did, but we did not.
Yeah, that kind of like something that, and I'm guilty of this, so I feel like I could say it, but like bringing speakers on hikes. I am the older I get, the more I'm like not a super fan of them, and
You
like
need that
listening to
nature
music,
sound.
like yeah, you need the nature sound. You need it. You need to listen to the flap of the crow's wings, the
Well, I
crunch of
think
the
the other thing
leaves.
too that's like it's one thing if you're like camping and nobody's around you and like you want to play a
Right.
little
You
bit
want
of
to bring a
music.
speaker? Yeah, that's fine.
When you're hiking on the trail and it's not like it's one thing too if it's like bear country and you're just using it to make sound, right? Like
Yeah, to scare away bears.
that's
That's what we did in
acceptable.
Grand Teton.
But I think the one thing that we were at least courteous about is anytime we saw somebody, we at least turned the volume down
Paused it.
so that they
Yeah, we
didn't
at
have
least
to listen
paused
to our
it.
music.
Right.
The people that don't and they come by you blaring music, I'm like,
So,
no, stop,
Ne-
please.
Never is it music that I like either.
no, it's never
It's
good
like,
music.
no, it's never music I'm like, oh, dude, you have some good taste there. No,
Bad
it's
trail
always,
music.
what are you listening to?
Bad trail music.
Speaking of views, guys, being in Denver, every day I get to see the Rockies. Like on my drive to work, on my drive to the gym, like no matter what, the Rockies are always there. And haven't been to like I've been lucky enough to go to been up to Rocky Mountain National Park, and it is very now I will say this, it is very, very rocky. So that was very aptly named. There's a ton of rocks, not a whole lot of trees, rocks and lakes. That's what it's got. But just the sheer size of them too, because when you're driving up, it's honestly the first time I did it, it was so disorienting because you're just in between these two mountains and they're both staring down at you and it's intimidating and you're winding through them and it's just amazing to see these piles of rock get that tall. Um, and then what's even more amazing though is when you're driving through is you'll see these bighorn sheep literally on like less than an inch of a ledge just standing there and they're just cruising along walking like I don't know how they have that balance to just stand up
Mm.
there. But it is honestly, I will say this: the Rockies are beautiful. They shape a lot of the heartland of America, like Kansas and Iowa and Missouri. Um, the heart, yeah, it's in the middle. That's the only reason why it's the heart. uh, but yeah, they just provide so much in terms of ecology, in terms of just the setting of where you are. Not to
Mm.
mention they're 14, I think we have the most 14,000 feet mountains than all the other states combined in Colorado.
You do.
Yeah, it is wicked. It is high, and the altitude you definitely feel that altitude. It sneaks up on you, but honestly, Rocky Mountain, 10 out of 10. You got to go visit it if you haven't already.
And I feel like that's a great segue. Boys, we've been doing a lot of talking about peaks. I'd like to speak on my favorite valley. Um, this is the Black Canyon of the Gunnison. It
The most
was,
underrated park I think ever.
dude, so underrated, and it might be West. We went on probably the greatest day
It was
of
perfect.
our entire 5-day venture from Utah to Texas.
But y'all go.
We stopped at
It was like November 1st. Like I don't know. I remember that.
it was September.
No,
Was
it
it
was because
November?
we were in Utah on Halloween, and then it was November 2nd. Because then we did Arches on November 1st, and because it was the first day they didn't charge or make you do reservations, and then we did Black
Which was
Canyon the next
great.
day. It was great.
Which was great. But I think it was a solid 55 out. So it wasn't like cold, but it was by no means like hot out.
Yeah.
Perfectly clear. You know when it's clear, but there's also some wispy clouds that just give the skyline some sort of feel to it rather than it just being
Yeah.
completely blue. It was absolutely gorgeous. I think me and West only ended up doing about a mile long hike. It was a really short
Yeah,
hike,
we didn't hike. There's not too
but
much hiking to do there because you just go straight down, and you might like
yeah,
it's just if you're gonna do a lot of hiking there, it's gonna be the most difficult hike.
It's
Winter
gonna
is
be
not the
they
time to
sliding.
don't
do it.
allow you to do these hikes. We
Yeah,
actually went
we
in, and our original plan was to scale the canyon, and then they were like, "Do you guys have professional equipment?" And we were like, "No, we're just some bozos." And they're like, "Yeah, no."
they're like, you're not doing it.
So we ended up just doing this short little hike. And I don't know. We ended up spending about 5 hours out there.
We just sat there.
We got to the end of this hike, and we overlooked probably the most beautiful scenery I've ever seen in my entire life. It had the Black Canyon we were currently on. It had the Rockies in the back of our view. You could see the peak. Do you remember the name of that peak of that mountain, West?
It was like Gwinnett Peak, I think.
It was absolutely gorgeous.
I don't remember which one it was, but it was out there. And if you've never been to the Black Canyon of the Gunnison too, like what I don't think people understand about this place is it is like 2,000 feet deep straight down.
Holy cow.
And like around, right?
Jesus.
Like you're sitting at the top, right? This whole time. And you can see like the flat land around it, which is why you can see the mountains on both sides. Like you can see Telluride off one side. Then you can see over towards like I guess like towards Denver and like the Front Range on the other side.
It was
And-
so beautiful.
Like the sun hits the canyon at such an angle, like as it rises, it changes. Like it was just so magical sitting there and just seeing everything about the canyon. It was really cool.
Now, are the canyons like darker in
Darker.
stone
They-
coloring?
yes.
So they
So-
really are black.
They really
It
are
is.
black. And I ended up bringing my little Game Boy, and I played some Pokemon while we were up there, and listening to the Pokemon music while listening to nature and just sitting in the
How
most
God intended it.
beautiful overview,
Mhm.
dude. I'm telling you, top 5 moments of my entire life, which really tell you how amazing I thought the Great Sand Dunes and Acadia were, given that this was not mentioned. But this was also probably one of the greatest experiences I've ever had in my entire life. I recommend wholeheartedly to anybody, especially those who don't love hiking, but really love nature. Because I don't think we expended much energy at all. I'm telling you, we walked maybe a mile and a half to the end of this trail and saw something worth walking 10 miles to reach.
Facts.
Absolutely gorgeous. The name lives up to its name. I don't know what else I can say there. And
The name lives up to itself.
even when walking back, you just see these beautiful oversights. And then as we drive out of the state park, they have tons of small little spots where you can just park, get out of your car, go and just look over the canyon where you see, like Wes was saying, thousands of feet down into just
That's gotta be sick.
beauty. Oh my God. It was so sick. Also
Mhm.
kind of terrifying. If I remember correctly, I almost ate shit in a very bad spot to eat
Yeah.
shit. Nonetheless, an amazing experience. Unfortunately, that and the West. What was the name of the other canyon we went to?
Canyonlands.
Yeah, dude, Canyonlands were also sick. We
Canyonlands
found like
is
we found like
also
an
sick.
ancient little like divot. West, you could take that away.
We'll
You
we'll
can
have
take
to.
that away.
You'll see the pictures on the Instagram coming out next week. One of these is gonna have to go on there. But
Well, they would have already seen the pictures at this point.
well, that's what I'm saying. They can go see them on Instagram and see what we're talking about.
Yeah,
Same
yeah,
on
yeah.
Instagram. Candy
But, you know,
shop.
look, we'll plug the Instagram.
Yeah.
Candy shop.
All these national park pictures are going to be on our Instagram. So if we're not doing a good job describing them, they'll be on
But
there.
it's okay. They'll be there. But so what Tyler was saying, right, is Tyler and I, we went to Canyonlands after we did Arches.
Mhm.
So we went to Canyonlands. And there's
Canyonlands
this
is like
one-
right next to Arches, right?
was like an hour and a half
It
drive
was not
away.
far.
It
Worth
wasn't too
it.
bad.
It's
Like,
worth
and it
it.
was in the right direction of where we were going.
Okay.
We found this hike because it was probably like, I don't know, 3 o'clock at this point. We knew we didn't have that much time left. We were like, we're here. We need to go see this park.
Mm-hmm.
So we went. We hiked on like some. I want to say there was some butte. Like, I don't know, maybe 2-3 miles into the park. It was some butte. Nobody else was up there. And I remember like Tyler and I had started this hike. And again, it's like, I don't know, half mile to a mile long
Not a
hike. It's
far
not
hike.
long.
Not
An
bad.
amazing one,
But
nonetheless.
yeah, again, like a hike doesn't need to be far to be great because you start on a bunch of sand, you're in the middle of Utah, it's kind of the desert. But then you start going up this butte and it kind of turns from like an easy hike to like you're walking up a 45-degree angle slab of rock.
Yeah.
Ooh.
It was cool. You get to the top, you do some climbing. Tyler and I probably sat up there, had a couple. It was the West Waters. We drank West water.
We were in the West with West drinking West water.
Yeah, we were drinking the West Waters.
Westception.
We were drinking the West water, and we're like, at one point, we're like, there's nobody down there. Let's toss a rock, right? Like, not a big rock to make a disturbance. Like, let's just
That
toss a
rock
little
killed
rock.
somebody.
I don't know. Let's just toss a little rock. And so we like kind of tossed it, but then it fell like only like 20 feet below us, and we were like,
Directly below us.
we kind of look over, and
There's
we're
our
like,
duck.
there's like a little cave down there, and so we were like, how do we get down there? Turns out there's a little easy path to like go around.
You were
You
meant
walk-
to go
you-
down there.
You
Yeah.
walk down in it, and like on the whole side of this butte, there's like rock formations. You can see people used to live and sleep.
Mm-hmm.
There was like
Whoa.
areas for like obviously used for storage. We were like, holy shit! Like, this-
Hand-built walls of rock.
yeah,
That's
it
cool.
was so cool. Probably one of those things that like isn't well known about the park too. We kind of just stumbled across it, which
On a small hike, too.
A little
yeah,
treasure.
and it was so cool. We probably spent an extra 30-40 minutes down there just goofing. Sunset. Oh my god. Yeah, then we did like a
And I
race.
stepped on a
I
cactus.
was like, Tyler, let's go
Oh.
over to that rock over there. And he was like, no, you can't get to that rock. And I was like, well, look, there's like you can go. It's no path. Right? It's like skiing in the
We
back.
just walked, yeah.
Just walk over there.
Which is where I stepped on a fucking cactus. So
Yeah, which that's unfortunate. But the sunset looking
Tread
over
carefully.
like the western side of Utah, oh my god, so pretty. Again, it's another one of those parks. Like I think it's overshadowed because it's so close to Arches, but it's so nice,
Right.
So nice.
That
And
was
Sean,
yeah.
I would love to hear about your favorite crevice.
My favorite crevice. It's got an aptly named name as well. And that is the only Grand Canyon in Arizona. I went in mid-April. In Arizona. Honestly, it was a great time to go, but I would not say it's the best time to go. Mainly because there's ice. I know you wouldn't think there's ice going to be in Arizona, but it is pretty high up. Yeah, in April. There was ice in Arizona when I was there. Because Flagstaff, like Arizona is known for being super hot, like Phoenix and Tucson, like, but when you get up north to Flagstaff and like where the Grand Canyon is, it is cold. Like you're kind of in the mountains.
I think it's technically classified as a cold desert.
Yeah, like I think it is a cold desert, and you're up there with the mountains, and it turns into this barren landscape to all of a sudden mountain pine trees and rocks and snow. Like it snowed while I was there, which is I never thought Arizona saw snow a day in my life. And yeah, and now where I was in Flagstaff, and I was supposed to drive back east to Amarillo, but the Grand Canyon is actually 2 hours in the opposite direction. So I was going to add 2 hours plus time exploring onto my drive. And I was sitting there debating, and I was like, is this worth it, essentially? Like, is the Grand Canyon worth it? I hear all this stuff, but I've also heard that it's just a big-ass crack in the earth, and you'll see it when you see it. Like, I love cracks, dude. Who doesn't love a good crack? But who doesn't love good crack? Who doesn't love good crack? But eventually, like, and everybody that was living in Flagstaff that had been to the Grand Canyon, they're like, don't go. Like, it's not worth it. You'll see it another time. Like, it'll always be there. And I was like, good point. And then I was driving. I was like, I came this close. 2 hours is not going to stop me. I can suffer through it. I can sleep when I'm dead. And I drive the 2 hours and I get there and every single goddamn person lied to me. That is the coolest fucking national park ever. I mean, like I walked up and I like was not expecting how the sheer size of this crack. It is massive. Like I don't know how Evil Knievel ever believed that he could jump that thing. Like it was so far. It is so grand. Like grand really is the best name for it. One of my all the photos don't do it justice. Like it just looks like it just goes on and I'm on a cliff. Like it doesn't do it justice. But there's one video that I got that does do it justice. And you're standing on the top of it because I didn't have any time to go hike. I just kind of walked the edges. But you're standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon and there's a sign and it's like if you look, here's all the cool stuff in the landscape, but over here, this is a bridge, and it is like a 440-foot long bridge that holds 18 wheelers. And I zoom into that, and I zoom out, and it is literally like this big. Like it is no bigger than a finger, from my viewpoint. And I'm like, that's the 440-foot bridge that is right there, and it is this tiny. Like the sheer size of it
It's the
is
size of an ant.
yeah, it's literally the size of an ant. And like I got this kind of the same thing with the crows. Like I saw a hawk while I was there, just kind of like swoop in and then dive into the canyon, and it was just sending it just down the side. And I was like, man, he is still going until he just disappears.
That's so nice.
And then
Birds.
yeah, like and then they do these helicopter tours, and I'm looking and I'm watching. I'm like, wow, that's a big bird. It's out in the distance. It's maybe the size. It looked like a speck. And then I'm like looking at. It, I'm like, that's a helicopter, and it's
Not
just
a bird.
flying into the canyon. However, and this is why I say don't go in April, especially if you have young children, because there are no guardrails, and it is a straight drop, and it is icy. And I was wearing Air Force Ones, which is not the correct shoe to wear during this time.
No traction.
Forces.
No traction whatsoever. And I'm trying to get photos like on the edge because those look great. And it is just icy. And there was one time where I'm walking the little edge. I kind of hit a patch of ice and just go whoop and just like flirt with death a little bit before I caught my other footing. I was like, that wheel was really bad because nobody's out there and nobody would know. Nobody know that I just fell to my death. So I would go when it's a little bit warmer. Frankly, I would go probably like on September, late September. I feel like it'll be a good temperature there. But I cannot stress to you enough. Like everybody has to go see the Grand Canyon. And rush to it. Like it is out there. There is an airport.
There's
So
a
if you're
reason.
flying to it, there's a reason it was one of the prettiest national parks I've ever seen. It is so cool, and I can't wait to go back and spend a week and a half there. I literally
Yeah.
cannot wait.
Well, there's a reason it's one of the most talked about parks in the country. And I think to wrap up our valleys section of this conversation, we can't forget to talk about Yosemite Valley because I think it might be the only valley that can best Grand Canyon. It
I think Yosemite
is
like revered, and I'm the only one. Have you ever been to Yosemite, John?
Nope. It's on my list, but I
It
was
is
supposed to go. Then my car broke down.
it is world renowned for being just gorgeous. Like I've been to a lot of these parks, and I don't think any other park can come close to the amount of beauty that Yosemite has because everywhere you look, there's it really is like you're in a valley. It is every rock around you is 3,000 to 5,000 feet taller than you,
Cool.
and there are waterfalls coming down thousands of feet. It's just incredible. And so I was lucky enough to be able to do 4 days of backpacking in Yosemite, and it was up there with the best things I've ever done in my life. Proudest accomplishments in my life too, because it was not easy. We hiked from Glacier Point down and then back up. We went down, I don't know, it was around part of the Loop Trail, part of the John Muir Trail. Went down to the major falls, hiked in Little Yosemite, camped in Little Yosemite Valley. Everything we saw was just incredible. The vibes were awesome. The other people there were great. Like, we were lucky enough to be going at a time where there weren't that many other people hiking around us. We got to experience it without folks. It was awesome. If you've never been to Yosemite, you have to go, because
I'm
there's
trying.
no
I'm
better
trying to get out there.
there's no
Mhm.
better place to be. And like, I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to spoil it. And like, you can look at the pictures, right? But the pictures
That good.
don't. The pictures
Travis
don't
Scott
do it
made a song
justice.
about it.
For real. Ice on my neck, but really after doing all that, I needed ice on my knees. it was really,
killer.
really hard.
Oh my god.
Walking down the mist trail. So the mist trail, it's wet the whole way because you have two waterfalls splashing the trail as you walk down. And they're like, I don't know how people go up this trail because you're walking up like 2,000 feet on stairs the whole time. Like, thank God they had the stairs cut out, or else you're not doing it. Oh,
You're not making it.
God. The views on the way down were so nice. Your knees, they're busting. Because like that was like at the end of day 3. So we're going back down into the valley before camping. I'm
So
like,
you're over it.
I'm in pain. I'm not even over, right? I'm just in pain. And we go down, we get burgers. Like, we're doing everything we can to just enjoy civilization. We have to camp one more night. But oh my God. But gentlemen, now I want to talk about the only park that all three of us have been to. We've talked about valleys, we've talked about peaks. Now we got to talk about beautiful arches.
Man,
I love arches.
I love
an arch.
Oh my god.
I can't get
So-
enough of arches.
I'd like to start off this one, given that I think I actually probably have the lesser of the opinion on arches, the national park. Believe me, all other arches wonderful. I think it might be boiled down to what me and West experienced at the Canyonlands compared to Arches. Because we had such a tight itinerary, we were genuinely going from Utah to Texas within, what was it, 6 days, 5 days?
I think we had 3 days, but it's maybe 4 days from when we left Salt Lake City to when we got back to Lubbock.
So we had a very short amount of time. And I think, given that this was the first place that we stopped, it was the place where there were the most people, as well as it was the place, after looking back in hindsight, that I found most regal. And the reason being is I think me and Wes did it wrong. I think, and Sean, I know you're going to touch on this because I know you enjoyed the arches. Me and Wes, we ended up just going for about 3 hours, 4 hours-ish, where we got to the park, we took pictures at like one of the first couple stops, and then we went to the main attraction, which is that big arch that everybody's seen a picture of. Delicate Arch, where it was genuinely gorgeous. I enjoyed it thoroughly. I wanted to be known that to put a state park or a national park low on my list does not mean it was not beautiful. Believe me,
Right.
It's a national park for a reason.
Yeah, looking at your list, you've only been to bangers.
You really
Only
have
been
only
to
been to bangers.
Only been to bangers. But this is the one I put at the lowest, given that we didn't have enough time to truly experience it within the nature that it provides. I think so many people around, we had to wait our turn to get a picture, which just felt unnatural to that of which where I'm experiencing a national park. You know, you're off in the buttfuck of nowhere, and you should be able to get a picture wherever you want. But I'm around tons of people. Ended up meeting a little chipmunk named Alvin, and he was fucking chill as hell. But I think in comparison to what me and Wes experienced at the other places that we went on that trip, I can't revere it as highly as I know I should.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wes,
Yeah,
do you agree?
I would agree. I think we should have given ourselves, like, realistically, we didn't need to be back in Lubbock until a day after we were. So we should have taken a day to sleep in
We should have
Moab,
taken.
do Arches for a full day, do Canyonlands for a full day. We probably could have seen a lot more cool stuff.
Yeah.
but we didn't. You know, you can't worry
That's
about what you
hindsight.
didn't do. Like
I
we
love
can always go
Heinz.
back, right? We can always go back. Um, I would love to do like a day in the backcountry of both, like not
Yeah.
just seeing like the
It'd
best
be
stuff.
beautiful.
Like the backcountries of the national parks where you got to go, but not to get off
Yeah.
topic too much. I
Yeah.
agree. Like I think what we saw was awesome. We did like the staple thing you have to do at the park. But
Mm-hmm.
because that's such an iconic thing, one, everybody does it. Two, you
So
know,
many heads.
everybody's there and like you feel like it's one of those things you have to do. I think I'm glad we did it, but I think if I were to go back, I would make sure that we experience some of the backcountry stuff, go to the double arch, like do some of those things.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean, I know you have like had a different experience at arches.
Yeah. So y'all went in what, like November, I'm assuming?
That was
Yeah.
November 1st.
Okay. So I went kind of like mid-March, and that is when I would go. I will say this, like I also did not spend as much time as I wanted to in National Park or in Arches because I was driving from Denver to Las Vegas and Moab was on the way, and I was Googling it, and I was like, I only had time to do one, Canyonlands or Arches. And the reviews for Arches were everyone said, if you're gonna do one, do Arches. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
okay, like I don't know why, but we'll go for it. Pulled up to Arches and I mean, from the moment I entered the park, I was blown away because you literally wind up to get to the trails. You
Yeah.
literally climb up the mountain and you're
Mm-hmm.
just winding up this big old rock. And I was like, this is honestly, it was really, really cool. And then I stopped at the visitor center because what I like to do is when I visit a park, I go to the visitor center first. I get postcards, but then I also ask the rangers of like, what hikes do you recommend just to see,
Mm-hmm.
where they know these parks better than everybody else. Like the internet's not gonna, you know, give me the best answer, but the park rangers will. And I was like, I really want to see Delicate Arch, but like I only have like maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours. He goes, well then you're not gonna make it to Delicate Arch. It's probably like a 4 hour thing that you gotta do. I was a little bummed out, but he gave me this kind of side hike on my way into the park that I should check out, and I forget what exactly it's called, but it's basically this big plateau, and then y'all have seen pictures of it, but it's bouncing. I think it's like bouncing rock, or something like that,
Yeah, yeah,
where
yeah.
yeah, it's
Yep.
literally
Yep.
a rock that's balancing like on this point, and he was like, "You got to go see that." I was like, "Okay," made a note of that, and then as I was driving in. I decided to say fuck it and go hike Delicate Arch. I was like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it. Like I can't again, like with the same with the Grand Canyons, like I came all this way, like I have to see it. Like it's summit or bust at this point. Like we're summit or bust. And I park my car, I do the hike that's to Delicate Arch. And it is not an easy hike.
Nasty one for sure.
It is a hefty hike, and I was sprinting because I was like, this is gonna take me 2 hours. Like I'm going, like I'm sending this hike. And there's this one part of the hike, y'all know what I'm talking about, but you're going through the trails, and all of a sudden it's just like a wall, like a
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
slant, a slab of rock that you're supposed to and there's no
Gotcha.
direction. You're just like, I
No, you
guess I
just
just
big dog it up it.
go up there, like that. You just scale the rock, and like I thought that was so cool. It wasn't a lot of people. There were people, and that's the only reason I knew how to get up there because I was like, what do I do now? Like,
Exactly.
where is this? Like, I thought I was almost at the top, and I see people hiking. I'm like, well, I guess I'll follow them. And then when you get to the other side, it's really like a ledge that you kind of walk through. And then what I was honestly like, what first caught my breath was they on that ledge. There's a section where you can view. There's a hole in the rock, and you can perfectly see Delicate Arch in the scenery. And I was like, oh, this is like God is framing this arch. Like this is meant to be. And so I hike up, and there was like a little bit of a line. I would have been annoyed if I like going during peak. I would not do arches during peak. I don't think it's worth it. I think going when there's not a lot of people is what made it so magical for me. Because there were people there to take my picture. It was extremely windy. There's a photo of me holding my flag and my hat because I'm literally like trying not to blow away. Um, in the middle of the arch. But I could see where there'd be a ton of people. It would ruin the experience.
Mhm.
But there was not for me. It was very, very calm, very relaxing, very beautiful. You're in the desert but there was snow in the background in the mountains. So it was just really, really pretty and seeing it in person, every time I see a Utah license plate, I'm like, hey, like I've stood right there
Mhm.
and
I
it's
get it. I
it's
get it. I
just
get it.
yeah. Then I walked back to my car and I drove by Balancing Rock and that was also because I was the only person there. It was literally like I could walk up to them. There was nobody there to like,
It's so nice.
be in my pictures. It was quiet. It was just like sitting underneath it, like, man, I hope this doesn't fall on me.
Are you
Like,
there on a weekday?
um, I no.
Mm.
Um, I
I feel
think
like it's just March. It's not a hiking season. You know what
yeah,
I
but
Yeah, I
mean?
know it's
yeah,
March.
because I was there going to All Staff. And so
Right.
I
Okay.
I drove from the Denver airport to Las Vegas because I had a flight at like 4 a.m. to go to All Staff. And my plan was really just to drive the 14 hours from Denver to Las Vegas, pull up to the airport, sleep in the car, and get up at 2 a.m. to go inside. And so I was like, well, I technically have time to kill, which is why I decided to risk it on Delicate Arch. Um, but no, like as of right now, just because of how pleasant of an experience it was, it is my favorite national park.
Yeah, it's so worth it.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was so
Oh
worth it.
yeah. I
Yeah,
gotta revisit.
you gotta
I
go. We
gotta
gotta go in
revisit. I gotta
March.
revisit.
Go when nobody's there. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm sure right now, like all two of our listeners are gonna go, but as soon as this blows up, everybody's gonna go in March, and then that summer will be free.
Absolutely.
So,
Yeah, for real. No, and
but
honestly, right. Like I think our first live episode might have to be done at a national park we've never been
Yeah,
to after
national
this
park.
conversation.
yeah,
To end up the Arches series, though, I do have to throw a little bit of Arch hate out there. Fuck Gateway National Park.
fuck Gateway
National
National, right?
Park.
That is the
I mean, it's fine,
worst
right?
national park
I'm
I've
not
ever
gonna
been
sit
to.
here. I'm not gonna sit here and say fuck the park, but also like shouldn't be a national
Park.
park.
Fuck the
It
park. I've
should
never been
it
there, but fuck that park.
it should not be a national park.
Like it's cool,
I
right? It's a cool thing to go see. And if St. Louis is just like, yo, we have this big arch, come see it, I'd be like, oh yeah, it's a cool thing
yeah,
St. Louis
that's
has. But
dope.
because they call it a national park, I think it's like, why?
It devalues it. It devalues it to me. I remember walking up to it, be like, oh, this is so sick, and then I see national park, and I was like, oh, it's not sick anymore.
Like make it a
This is a
national
man-made
monument.
national park. Yeah, it's a national monument.
National monument for sure, but like the national park distinction there, I think ruins it.
We don't want to end on Gateway, boys. You know, it's not one of the ones that we highlight. You know what I'm saying? And given that every park that I've been to has been spoken of in high regard, I would love to pass it on to you boys to just give me your quick honorable mentions. You know, the parks that you've been to that weren't mentioned today that definitely need to be seen by those who might be listening.
One that I know we've talked about before on the podcast, we can't talk about it too much here. But Grand Teton is my second favorite national park, and I need to go back and see more of it.
Yep, I would agree. Grand Teton is definitely since we've talked about it before, it's an honorable mention here. It is amazing. I cannot wait to go back to Grand Teton. I think
Absolutely.
another sleeper pick for me is going to be Saguaro over there in Tucson, Arizona. It literally splits the cities. You know, there's Saguaro West Side, Tucson, Saguaro East Side National Park, and those are some big ass cacti, famously known as cacti. They
Cactuses.
they are sick. I mean, it was. I mean, you're literally out in the middle of the desert and you just see rows of saguaro cactuses just towering over the landscape, and that's it. That's the highest things are those cactus, and they're very majestic. And I want to give them a hug, but you can't be doing
You
that.
can't.
You
Did you
can't
feel
be
like
doing
Rango?
Rango
that.
from that movie with the lizard?
Yes, with the
You
lizard
felt
Johnny
like
Depp.
Rango.
I felt like
Yes,
Rango.
bro. That's
Oh my
so
god,
lit.
actor turned cowboy. Like that's me.
That is. And another one that I think we need to touch on is the caves. I've been to Mammoth Cave, which is like, it's pretty cool. Wish that was one of the ones that you have to book a tour for the cave because if you get lost in it, you're boned kind of thing. It's the largest cave system in the world, 400 miles of them.
Holy cow.
So we saw like the basic cave and like we hiked on the outside part and it was really cool, but I wish we had gotten to go into the cave more, but that was our fault, not the park's fault. But a cave that I think is really cool that I've seen all of is Carlsbad Caverns. You don't hear about Carlsbad Caverns too much
No,
because
no.
it's
Is Carl
kind of it's
bad?
kind of in the
Is
middle.
Carl
Is Carl
bad?
bad?
Is
Carl's
Carl
bad.
bad?
Where is it?
Carlsbad. Um, Carlsbad Caverns is just outside of Carlsbad, New Mexico, which is in like the middle of nowhere. It's right over near Guadalupe Mountains National Park too. So there's two parks within like 45 minutes of each other. I saw Guadalupe, but I wasn't there. So you go in to Carlsbad Cavern and you start with like, I don't know, 2 mile hike just down. Like I think you go down about 2,000 feet. It's one of those things you can't really describe because it's everything you think of
Surreal.
about a cave. That's like you got the stalagmites, stalactites, different puddles, formations. Like it's everywhere, and there's no place that you look where it's just like a rock wall. Everywhere you look is different formations, so it's almost overwhelming the amount of stuff you get to see. But it's so
Interesting.
cool. I think one of the things that was really cool about it too is it's not like a space where you have to get guided around because it's not very big down there. Like it's a big cave, but it's not like you're gonna get lost. Like you can explore the whole thing in probably 2 hours.
Unless you're one of them cave divers who wants to go find the little crevices.
Yeah, there's one spot you could have done
Y'all seen that
but
trend? People,
Yeah, people like cave divers when they find a crack in the
Mhm.
sidewalk.
So
cave
funny.
divers when they see this.
When they see this,
Yeah, I could fit in there. Yeah, I could get in there.
It's their feet.
it's their feet, it's their shoes.
Yeah, so the caves I think deserve a little bit of love. The only other park that I want to give a shout out to, another one that I think is underrated, but I understand why, is Congaree. It's really pretty.
I've never heard of Congaree.
It's not what many people think of, but it is a park that is in the middle of South Carolina. It's like a flood basin for the Columbia River, and it's really cool. Like you have to go in there knowing what it is. You can't expect to see views. You can't expect to be able to do that much there, right? But there's some of the biggest trees I've ever seen. They're so wide. The paths are nice. It's just cool. Like there's not many places I've seen that are like it. And we saw an owl when we were there, and that was really cool. Like middle of the day too, just a big old great horned owl.
Wait, I've always wondered, why is it called Congaree? Is that like the name of the town or what? That's a Googleable question.
That's
Question
a
of the day.
Googleable question for
That's
those
a
who are
Googleable
listening.
question. All right, now I gotta find out. Like, why is it called?
Because it's the Congaree River. Maybe it's the Congaree River and not the Columbia River.
Congaree
It's gonna be the
National
Congaree
Park.
River. It's gonna be the Congaree River.
Named after the Congaree people who once lived there. Interesting.
How about that?
Park
Y'all
preserves
didn't
the
realize this is
cultural
going to be an
heritage.
educational podcast.
Yeah, we can now put that as one of our tags.
Oh,
Many Congaree
hashtag
people
educational.
died in the 17th and 18th centuries due to disease and warfare brought by who else? The European
Rhino.
colonization. Rhino.
Oh.
Interesting. I did not know that. The park also has rich African American history. Whoa, that's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
Interesting. The more you know.
The more you know.
Yeah, boys.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully one of these days we can shoot one of these podcasts all together on a national park.
That'd be a
It'd be
great
fucking
idea.
sick.
We'll have to plan a trip.
Got to go to Glacier. It's not going to be here for next 30
Too much
years.
longer, honestly.
Well, no, the glaciers are just melting.
Glacier's just melting, so we got to go to that one.
We gotta go.
We still have breath.
Absolutely. All right, guys. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the Pendleton special of
Candy
the
Spash.
Candy Shop
And
podcast. Look at that.
Andy wants to say
Sammy
goodbye,
is tuned
too.
in.
we say goodbye as well.
But for everybody, thank you for tuning in.
We appreciate
Keep your
y'all
sweet,
listening.
keep your sweet tooth and
Keep your sweet
enjoy.
tooth.
Hopefully you're leaving happy.
Hopefully you're leaving happy. Peace.
Much love.
Peace.